The next speaker is Victor Pinckney.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes. My name is Victor Pinckney, Sr. Good morning, Council President and Council members. I'm the Vice President of Hapco Philadelphia. Hapco Philadelphia is the Commonwealth's largest membership organization for providers of low to moderate income private rental housing. Hapco Philadelphia's membership owns primarily single-family duplex rentals on the streets and neighborhoods of Philadelphia. I also own and manage rental properties in Philadelphia. We do understand during these trying times that we all are going through hardships. Tenants as well as landlords. You have good tenants, bad tenants. You have good landlords and bad landlords. Well, after saying that, I'm testifying today against Bill 200294, 200295, 200302, and 200305. If these bills are passed, it will have a devastating effect on rental property owners. I currently have a tenant that has not paid rent since February. That predates any COVID-19 emergency period. I was finally able to get a court date scheduled for July the 14th, which I doubt very seriously that will actually happen. If these bills are passed, my case will get continued. If the tenant alleges a COVID-19 hardship, which they surely will do, I will have no ability to dispute the allegation. I will then have to wait until September to send out a notice for conciliation conference in October to get into court, if I'm lucky, and then will not get an actual lockout until at least November, December. This tenant has no intention of paying. I'm now going to lose 9 months of rent. It would be devastating to a person owning one home, one rental property. I have another tenant who's working and has the money to pay rent, but realizes he does not have to, so it's not paying, and there's nothing I can do about it. The state moratorium on eviction ends on July 10th. Tenants should not be allowed to live rent-free after that date. Under these bills, however, this tenant will be allowed to live rent-free for at least an additional 3 months. My business and many of my members of my organization cannot survive on this. The governor's emergency declaration wasn't declared until March 6, 2020. Under these bills, however, they extend the COVID-19 emergency period retroactively to March 1st, 2020, a date that is before there was an emergency. Additionally, for rents that were due before March 1st, I stated I would be presented for proceeding on these cases as well. Found regarding the hardship payment plan.
Mr. Pinckney, can you wrap it up?
Yes, sir. Yes, these bills take away any incentive for tenants to pay rent on time, even if they can. My mortgage payment, taxes, utilities, and repair bills, however, do not stop. Not having the rent to pay for these expenses will destroy my business. Thank you for listening, council members, and please vote against these bills.
Councilwoman Gibb, I think you wanted to be recognized before the reading of 200294.
Yes, thank you so much, Council President.
Yeah.
First, I would like to thank Council and this body for its tremendous leadership in the area of housing. I am glad to be part of a council that has dramatically committed its commitment to housing as a human right through eviction protection and common sense renter protections. This bill that we are about to vote on and the four following are the next step in our legacy as a council body. Thanks to my colleagues, especially to you, Council President, and thank you to the leadership of our Appropriations Chair, Maria Quinones-Sanchez. We've been able to make and maintain historic investments in the Housing Trust Fund. We've been able to create a nationally renowned Philadelphia eviction prevention project and pass right to council legislation. Now we are meeting this moment in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic. In 12 days' time, rent is due yet again. But there will not be another rent due date without answers for hundreds of thousands of Philadelphians who have called upon us to take action. We know how much this matters. $11 million in PHL rent assist was exhausted in 5 days with more than 3 times the number of qualifying people. Our courts need it as they face thousands of cases of eviction, thousands of cases that come before them. And in this moment, each of us knows that stable housing is as much a means of racial and economic justice as it is a means of economic recovery. We must come together to keep a roof over everyone's head and to turn the corner on housing dignity. When studies showed that 70% of eviction cases in Philadelphia involve Black women, it matters for us to take action. When the reinvestment studies show that Black communities are targeted for eviction, no matter what the income level is, it matters to us to take action. We are committed to making things work. The diversion meeting that we held this week attracted more than 40 members at the highest levels of city leadership, of the courts, and of our advocates and communities. I'm grateful to a housing committee that put us through a rigorous review process and made sure that the amendments that are before you reflect a careful consideration of all the needs, including of our landlords and of our renters. These bills are largely limited to COVID-related financial hardships. And it's important for those to know that accusations that no evictions will happen for months is simply not accurate. There will be time and due process, but we need to find ourselves the time to get the resources that we need. Right now, Philadelphia has a chance to be a leader. We help move more than $150 million for rental relief programs at the state level. HUD has just announced that its own eviction moratorium has been extended until August 31st, the exact date that was could be established by our city council body. New programs are being created, and what we are asking for from this body is the time to find renters, the resources, and for our landlords to be able to match those resources with the renters that they serve. And today, we are about to do that. I want to thank my co-introducers of the Emergency Housing Protection Act, Council Members Brooks and Gautier, who have been fearless and steady in their ability to bring together our landlord and our renter advocates alike to make sure that there are measured decisions that balance all the interests at stake. I'm proud to move these bills alongside of them. I'm grateful for the co-sponsors of 294 and 295, Council Members Thomas, Jones, Quinones Sanchez, and Heenan. This is our time to think big, to restructure processes and institutions that have long created barriers to opportunity, whether intentional or not, for Black, Brown, and immigrant communities. Today, we have a chance to become a leader when our state and federal governments lagged. Today, we have a chance to show that local government can move nimbly and quickly to give assurances and hope in a time of uncertainty and fear. We march in the footsteps of those who fought for Black liberation, and we honor it with bold action and a mission for the people we serve. I want to thank all of my colleagues on council for making all of this possible, and thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 200-294.
An ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for an eviction diversion program.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Councilman Dom, you on?
Yes, aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is voting aye. Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Jim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Councilman Heenan. Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
I do this professionally.
Councilwoman.
I talk to reporters.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 200-295.
An ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for temporary eviction relief.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is voting aye. Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kim Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bills number 200302.
An ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for the temporary waiver of certain fees.
This bill hasn't been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is voting aye. Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye. Aye.
Councilman Eaton.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kim Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 200304.
An ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for relief to tenants who have been illegally locked out of their residences.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is voting aye. Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Kim Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 200305.
An ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for payment agreements for tenants with a certified financial hardship related to COVID-19.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks,
Aye.
Councilman Dom,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is voting aye. Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim,
Aye.
Councilman Heenan,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman O,
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinona Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilman Squilla,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
There are no resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Resolutions. Thank you very much. That completes our calendar for today. Prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft's Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized in order to comply with the Sunshine Act. The chat feature must only be used for this particular feature. With that said, are these speeches on behalf of the minority? And I believe Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you so much, Council President.
You're welcome.
As the COVID-19 pandemic and its economic impact progressed, more of our neighbors than ever have been at risk of eviction. Black and brown communities hit the hardest. Our constituents cannot recover from the traumatic events of the past few months and the uncertainty of the months ahead without stable housing. Today, City Council stepped up to the plate and passed bills that provided needed security for our community members that have been hit the hardest by this public health crisis. While measures like waiving late rental fees may seem small, they can decide whether a family is able to put on the street or not. As someone who has faced housing insecurity firsthand, I know that these protections will have enormous impact on Philadelphia families. When families have homes to stay in, our whole city can be safer and healthier. I want to thank my colleagues, Councilmember Gim and Gauthier, for working tirelessly on this package of bills with me. I also want to thank the co-sponsors of Bill 200302, Councilmembers Thomas, Johnson, Gilmore Richardson, and Quinona Sanchez, for all the community members who contributed to this legislation. I also want to thank all the bill co-sponsors who pushed this legislation forward. This process, and I'm very proud of I'm proud that this is my first.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Believe Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Council President. Our meeting today is significant for many reasons. We referred a budget out of committee under incredibly difficult circumstances, and it includes $20 million for the Housing Trust Fund, which, if adopted, will go a long way towards generating and preserving affordable housing here in Philadelphia. Thank you, Council President and Councilmember Quinona Sanchez, for your leadership on this issue. I want to take a moment to highlight the Emergency Housing Protection Act, which passed today. I am so grateful to my colleagues, Councilmembers Gim and Brooks, for their partnership. And I congratulate Councilmember Brooks on her first major legislative effort here. It's mine as well, and there's a lot to be proud of. I'd also like to thank the co-sponsors of these 5 bills, along with my fellow members of the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless, for their thoughtful contributions through the amendment process and for unanimously voting these bills out of committee. The approval of the Emergency Housing Protection Act marks a pivotal moment for Philadelphians. COVID-19 has presented a public health crisis unlike any other we've experienced in our lifetimes. But it's also created an incredibly uncertain economic environment. And along with economic instability comes housing instability. According to a recent national survey, more than a third of renters worry that their landlords will evict them in the next 6 months. Even before the pandemic, Philadelphia was facing a housing crisis. 300,000 renters were considered cost burdened, which means they spend at least a third of their income on rent each month. Hundreds of thousands of Philadelphians have filed for unemployment since mid-March. And we know that job losses are concentrated in the low end of wage distribution among workers who are more likely to be Black and Latino and who are more likely to rent their homes. The city's emergency rental assistance program was oversubscribed by 400% in 5 days. We know that help is coming from the state, but it hasn't arrived yet. In this moment when relief is uncertain, people need and deserve time to recover with grace and compassion. This legislation provides that time, and without it, we would have no other options. In Philadelphia, we know that up to 2,000 people already are subject to judgments, are at risk for eviction following the end of the governor's stay-at-home order. And approximately 1,800 eviction cases are awaiting to receive hearings. Because we took action today, we'll be able to prevent these evictions in the midst of this pandemic. Likewise, these bills ensure that our courts will not be flooded with additional eviction cases once the statewide eviction moratorium is lifted. We've already seen this happen around the country, like in Milwaukee, where following the end of their moratorium, eviction filings jumped 42% compared to last year. Colleagues, thank you so much for your support today. With the Emergency Housing Protection Act, we have an enormous opportunity to protect our city's renters and ensure they can remain safe and healthy